Back in high school, I had to choose what my electives would be, and during sophomore year, I decided to take a class that enriched my learning in a subject I was interested in and boosted both my physical and mental health. Something that truly made me express myself artistically and drove me to the next level. Just kidding, I took firefighting class. I took firefighting not because I wanted to be a firefighter, but because it looked fun. We would be taught by an actual firefighter chief, and we could use real firefighter tools, and actually had our own truck. But it was one of those blue trucks, so it was the budget kind. I thought I was going to be in a class with roughly 30 people. Instead, when I went in, there were only 8, including myself. We all got along really well, but very early on I could see that I was the odd one out, because I was the only one that didn't want to be a firefighter growing up. So while everyone was taking things very seriously, I was sitting here like, woo, fire! We all had to go to a handful of off-site training grounds to show us how firefighters work in burning buildings. We had to walk through very thin tunnels with a lot of smoke. And let me tell you, I don't know if you know this, but smoke really makes it hard to breathe. But you know what else makes it hard to breathe? When none of your equipment works. I don't know what was wrong with me, but every single one of my air tanks was busted in some sort of way. Either I couldn't turn on the airflow, or I couldn't connect the cord from my mask to the tank. All I remember was being certain that I was going to end up blasting into space when my air tank ruptured. However, there were definitely some times when I wished that the technology failed, because let me tell you a story about the risks of instant communication. Firefighters all have radios on their suit, and our class was split into 2 groups in an exercise where we had to communicate with each other using the radios to complete some sort of task. So it's important to remember that these radios activated with the click of a button, and when you turned yours on, everyone can hear you. So earlier that day, a kid in the other group had really pissed me off, for some no doubt stupid reason, and as most high schoolers do, I started to complain about it. Here's a message to everyone at home: if you have a grievance with someone, just talk it out. Don't complain behind their backs, because it is both immoral and can lead to unfortunate circumstances for you. That is a lesson I had to learn the hard way. Because as I was complaining about this kid, a rope wrapped around my shoulder fell down a little bit and pushed the button, and my voice suddenly came out of everyone's radio. Now, thankfully I stopped talking before anyone could tell what I was talking about, but that could have been really bad. I promise my time there wasn't just arguing with the other kids. We actually got along very well, and they were super chill, except for this one time where I scared the crap out of this other guy. So here's the premise. This guy, as a child, had a spider climb into his ear, and he had to go to the doctor to get it removed. Ever since then, he has a rightful fear of spiders. So fast forward to high school, and we were given this old fire truck to test on in tandem with our normal one. So me, the arachnophobic kid, and this other guy were the ones to get onto the older truck and start it up. As we got in, he freaked out and ran further into the truck. I asked what was wrong, and he pointed out that there was a spider on a web right over me. Now, me being an Australian, I didn't care too much, so I just batted it away and kept walking. But after I batted it away, we couldn't see where it went. So the kid was freaking out that there was a spider somewhere in the truck. I didn't think about it too much. Well, 10 minutes later, I put my hands in my pockets for some reason, and my left hand felt something in the very corner. I immediately knew what it was, and I put my hand out and I turned to the kid. "Hey man, I found the spider." "What? Where?" "In my pocket." "What? No, you're joking." So I flipped my pocket inside out, and it was like a slow reveal because it was in the very corner of my pocket. And when my entire pocket was turned inside out, the spider popped out and the kid lost his mind and screamed. It was one of the funniest things I had ever seen. And that is not the only time I've accidentally screwed that guy over. I accidentally hit the same guy in the face twice with a fire hose spray. One was when we were all trying to handle the truck and it accidentally sprayed in his face. The second time was when we were spraying a fire and I accidentally sprayed it into the air and it all rained down on him. I feel really bad about that, especially since they both happened on the same day. For those of you who have ever experienced a fire hose, you know that thing isn't exactly a normal water gun, but if you thought that was dangerous, I'll have you know that we also had chainsaws in class. That's right, high schoolers were being trained to use chainsaws, because that's the kind of idea that the country school system invests in. At those off-site facilities I talked about, we were training on the use of chainsaws to cut holes in slanted roofs. Long story short, I thought the chainsaw would stop spinning roughly half a second before it actually did, and I held it closer to my body and cut a little hole into the leg of my PPE. If I wasn't wearing it, I probably would have cut my leg a little, and being on a slanted roof would have made that much worse. So if you ever find yourself cutting into the top of a slanted roof with a chainsaw, in order to prevent yourself from falling, make sure you wait until you're sure the chainsaw has stopped. But thankfully, my experiences with roofs have not always been negative. One of my fondest memories in firefighting class was when our teacher was out sick, so the school was going to send a sub. Now, we all know how sometimes subs can be fun to mess with, but you know what's even more fun? If the sub doesn't even show up. So you're locked outside in the cold. I know that might sound bad, but we actually had an awesome time. During that unit, we were studying ladders, and there was a little overhead roof above the entrance to our class, and the ladder up was still there from when we were practicing the day before. The building had like 3 different heights of roofs, and we were laddering to the lowest one. So the 4 of us, not all 8 showed up to school sometimes, went up and literally stayed on the roof for the whole class. We were clearly in line of sight for the windows of some nearby school buildings, so I have no idea how we didn't get seen from another classroom. Also, firefighting took up 2 class periods, so we were up on the roof of one of the school buildings for roughly 2 hours. During that time, we were mostly on our phones, but the others had the bright idea to go into the cafeteria and get some food. So me, not bringing any money to school since I brought my own lunch, had nothing to get at the cafeteria, but I just went along for the fun of it. I thought they were going to look around or find a vending machine to buy from, but I later found out that 2 of the guys had stolen a Diet Coke each from the cafeteria, which I just need to clarify I had nothing to do with. But it did freak me out a bit to be sitting on the roof in the cold with 2 stolen Diet Coke bottles being drunk nearby me. But even after all that, after spraying the same guy twice in the face with water, after traumatizing him with a spider, after nearly complaining about another student over the radio, after being an unwitting accomplice to Grand Theft Cola, constantly having broken equipment, and almost cutting off my own leg, I was somehow awarded the Most Improved Cadet Award.